Last week, one of my awesome clients, Lisa, shared an Instagram thread with me that she knew I would love. It was all around the topic of repurposing, and I went deep into this thread, y'all. I read every single response. I wanted to know, what are people feeling about repurposing? And I gotta tell you, a lot of mixed reviews. So today I wanna talk about the art of repurposing, what's changing, and how you can use it without pissing off your consumers.
This is the Authentic Brand Builders Podcast with Michelle Knight.
Welcome back, Authentic Brand Builder. I'm super excited for today's episode. We are talking about the art of repurposing, which is something I have loved talking about for years. If you don't know my full story, here is the short version. I started my business while working a 9-to-5 just months after giving birth to my son. So I was navigating a lot of things while trying to be an entrepreneur, create content, show up, make money online. So very quickly, I discovered the art of repurposing. Now, at the time, I was using it strictly for social media and email marketing content, but in 2017, I started branching out. I started to recognize that I didn't want to grow my business on social media. Instead, I wanted to focus on search engine platforms, YouTube, podcasting, blogging, Pinterest. I've been a lot of places and I'm still showing up on all of them. So around this time, I started to restructure how I repurposed. I created a repurposing schedule that's centered around a piece of core content that we'll talk about today. And I really became a master at repurposing my content because I didn't want to spend hours and hours and hours trying to create content and distribute it online. Now, back then, repurposing was not talked about in the same capacity that it is now. I feel like it's everywhere. Why? Because we entrepreneurs have to be everywhere. With the omni-channel approach to marketing and consumers being on multiple platforms, it's really important that we are showing up in multiple places. So it's only natural that repurposing is having its moment. But I gotta tell you, based on this thread, not everyone is loving it. And a lot of people are doing it wrong. Repurposing isn't just about copying and pasting one thing from one platform to another platform. It's a much more strategic approach. So today I want to talk about what repurposing actually is, how you can use it in your content stack, and answer a question that I got from a member inside of my VIP community over on Instagram all about repurposing. So the definition of repurposing is to adapt for use in a different purpose. And I think that's really what we need to be focusing on right now. Repurposing isn't just regurgitating information, copying and pasting it on multiple platforms. It's adapting that information based on its purpose. So that brings us to the topic of content stacking. You're probably like, what is content stacking, Michelle? It is something that I've been working on with my one-on-one clients for a little over a year now, using this term with them, but I haven't publicly been really talking about it much. The idea of content stacking is making sure that you have very clear and specific purposes for each of your platforms so that the content that you're creating is purposefully stacked to hit these 3 marketing points. We want to make sure that as a marketer, you are doing 3 things every single day, meaning your content should be doing these 3 things every single day. Number 1, create brand awareness, right? We want people to be discovering your brand daily. Yes, daily. This is why I'm such a fan of search engine platforms. The second is brand attraction. Someone taking that next step, following you, engaging with your content, or what we really cross our fingers for and hope for, joining your email newsletter. Now, I talk a lot about email marketing. To me, my email list is sacred. These are people who have said, yes, absolutely. Tell me more. I want to hear from you. I invite you in my inbox. And that's what's happening at this level. The third level is brand connection. This is where the content is really centered around building trust. This is why we integrate storytelling into all of our content here at Brandmerry, because it's really important that you, my audience, trust me. We build this trust. We also have the authority piece to the point where someone says, yes, I'm ready to buy from you. I want to buy from your brand. Your brand is the brand that I want in my life, right? And happening at the brand connection phase is also retaining your clients. And again, same type of content, creating trust, authority, solving their problems. So it's really important that as an entrepreneur, you are hitting these 3 marks consistently. And the way to do that and do that well is to create a content stack. So I'm going to give you an example. YouTube, okay? YouTube for me is really designed to reach new individuals. Now, of course, my YouTube videos, which are my podcast recorded, also serve my existing audience. That's a beautiful thing about content stacking. It can also be used at different layers, but I'm super conscious that its purpose is to get in front of new people. YouTube's a great platform for that because of its SEO, its video content, so it builds trust a lot faster for new people. I also use YouTube Shorts for the exact same purpose. I'm not posting YouTube Shorts for anyone who's already following me on YouTube. I am posting YouTube Shorts to get in front of new people and increase my overall watch time. The second thing that you might think about is Instagram. We talk a lot about social media. For my business, I am using Instagram at the brand attraction and brand connection stage, not at brand awareness. I am not using Instagram to get in front of new people every single day. In my opinion, it just doesn't work like that at the capacity that I'm willing to give the platform, okay? I'm not willing to post multiple times a day and constantly be fixated on trends and things like that. It's just not how I want to run my business, so I don't do it. So Instagram for me is really about those people who find me via YouTube, find me via SEO with my blog, find me on Pinterest, decide to come over and hang out with me over on Instagram. They get to know a little bit more about me, about my specialty, more of the day-to-day, the trust building, and that's where that magic is happening. It's also where I converse with so many of my existing clients, just so I'm still staying in contact with them. We're still messaging each other. I have clients who DM me with my stories, talk about how my son has grown, or comment about my garden, consistently building that trust and being top of mind for them from a personal aspect. And so that's an example a little bit of content stacking. Now, every business is going to be different. It's going to depend the type of content you're distributing, the medium that you enjoy distributing content on, where you feel most comfortable getting started. But all of that plays a huge role in your repurposing plan. Because again, you can have a central topic, but how you repurpose it, how you adapt it, depends on the purpose of that platform. And that's what I really want you to walk away with today. So let's talk a little bit about copying and pasting. This was a huge central theme on this thread. Copy and paste. People didn't like it. They didn't like that they followed them on multiple platforms and they could see the same information being pushed out over and over again. Okay, I understand. As a marketer, I also know that it's incredibly rare that that individual actually saw all of those social media posts. Like that doesn't happen very often. The other thing I think a lot of people were chatting about in the thread was email marketing. So as I mentioned before, email marketing to me is sacred. Email marketing is where I encourage my clients to go deeper. You're telling people that like if they join your newsletter, if they're going to join your email list, they're going to get something special. Otherwise, what's the point? Why aren't they just following you on social media, you know? So you really want to think about that when you are talking about repurposing, because we're going to dive into like how to break this all up, how to repurpose your core content, all of that. But email marketing might not be your core content. It might be a leg of your core content, but you still have got to give them more. It cannot feel like whatever is in your email now gets posted on social media, or whatever is on social media is just all you share in your email. Again, it's not about copying and pasting just to get your content out on multiple places. It's about adjusting that content. So a great example of this would be, let's say you are sending out an email to your email list where you are sharing some tips. Okay, let's just say you're sharing 3 tips on planning. All right. You might elaborate a lot more in this email, give a little bit more, share links to additional resources. All those different things might be happening inside of this email. But let's say the content is gold and you turn those 3 points into a carousel that you share on Instagram. You're still sharing the general content idea, but how you're delivering it is very different. And that's what is really important, because one thing we know is that sometimes we hear things or see things presented in a different way and suddenly it clicks. So rather than copying and pasting just to be like, peace, I did it, let's check that box, think about how you can reposition the content even to pull somebody in. Someone might be on your email list. They might open up that email and they might be like, this is too much for me to read right now. Okay, great. That's totally fine. You've got other people on your email list that are like, ooh, this is juicy. I know Michelle always delivers the goods in her email list. I'm going to read through this whole thing. I'm going to take it away. I'm going to bookmark these pages that she's sharing. That happens too, right? But then when I share those 3 tips over on my Instagram, somebody who might already be on my email list might suddenly see those and go, oh, these are so good. And then in my caption, if I say, ooh, and I sent an email about this earlier in the week, they might prioritize that email now. It's all a web. It's all connected. And the more that you can really clearly adjust your content to meet your customer where they are and meet the purpose of that platform, the better off you're going to be. Another thing about this amazing example that we're giving is, let's say you have these 3 tips that you're sharing on planning and you're like, this would be a really great blog post. Just because you shared it in an email doesn't mean you can't share it in the blog post. In fact, you should be sharing it in the blog post. All right. Now, in an ideal world, I would have preferred you wrote the blog post first, then emailed your list and told them to go read the blog. But some people just really like writing email first. And I get that. You can literally choose anything at your core content and make it work for you. But now you have this on your blog. Now you're upping your chances of getting your content seen by people who aren't on your email list, who know nothing about you. And you've just created another amazing point of contact, increasing your brand awareness, your brand attraction, and your brand connection with one central theme. So I hope that explanation kind of breaks down what repurposing actually is and what it is not, because that was the central thing that I saw with this thread. And I got to say, I 100% agree. It is not copy, paste. It is adjusting based on the purpose. Now, one of my awesome clients and VIP community members, Mallory, asked me this question inside of my Instagram VIP group, which if you want to check that out, head to @MichelleKnight.co and you can just join the Brandmerry VIP channel right there. I always post threads asking questions of you so that I can answer them like this, and I answer them inside of the community as well. She said, I would love to learn how to do it better and more often. So I want to break that down in regards to repurposing. And then I want to talk a bit about my very, very simple repurposing plan that you can take and use today. So better. How do we repurpose better? All right, number 1 is you have a clear content stack. You know that these are the platforms that you're going to be using. You understand the purpose of those platforms and the specific type of content that you'll be creating on that platform. What I mean by this is YouTube is a great example. Are you going to be creating short form YouTube videos? Are you going to be creating a video podcast? Are you going to be using YouTube Shorts? You don't have to be doing all of those things at once. In fact, I don't recommend that at all. You'll get very burnt out and overwhelmed. But what is the initial goal? And something I've talked with my clients about over the years is phasing out your marketing. So what is phase 1? Maybe phase 1 is I'm going to start creating a weekly video on YouTube. Maybe phase 2 is I'm going to start repurposing that video into YouTube Shorts. Maybe phase 3 is I'm going to now put that transcript on my blog. And then maybe phase 4 is I'm going to roll out Pinterest, right? Lots of really great marketing strategies happening, but not all at once. It's a meeting your capacity, which is incredibly important when it comes to consistency. So you need to have a clear content stack. We've already talked about this. Now, the second thing, and as it relates to the core content, is once you've established this is where I'm going to be showing up, This is the purpose behind each of those platforms. I'm super clear it's hitting brand awareness, attraction, or connection. Again, could be hitting all three, but what's its main goal? Then what is your core content? What is going to be the content when you think about a web here? What is going to be the content that sits right in the center, okay? This is going to be the weekly content, a new topic that you create. Now, for my example and what I do in my business is I create a podcast. For years, I was creating the audio podcast, and then we were putting show notes on the blog. Blog becomes a little extension from the core content. Then I started recording the podcast because I thought to myself, let's start getting back into YouTube. And this seems like the easiest way to do that. So YouTube became an extension off of the audio podcast. So I record the audio, I record the video, and we still have the blog, okay? Now, another thing that I started using and experimenting with more and more was short form video. Now, I do create short form video that is more inspired, I guess you could say. This is like spur of the moment. Some weeks I'll post a couple reels. Some weeks I won't post any reels using B-roll or face to camera. But I wanted to have a bit of a short form video presence. So I thought about the platforms I wanted to be on for that. Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram. Those are going to be my main ones where I would be using short form video. So I created another little section off of my core podcast content that's a short form video. And from there, we've got YouTube Shorts, Instagram, and Pinterest. You see, we have like a web created now. These short form videos are coming from the YouTube content. So last week on the episode, I shared with you a tool I love called Opus Clip Pro, where I can put the link in with my YouTube video and it will splice up 15, sometimes 20 different clips that I can use on these different platforms. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm taking a piece of content I've already created. I'm turning it into micro talking points that I can then put on these different platforms. All right, that's another leg. I also have my email list. Now, what we're talking about here in terms of this content creation flow is your weekly repeated content workflow. Can you do more? Absolutely. Should you do more if you feel inspired? Absolutely. An example of this is email. Now, every week when my podcast is released, I send an email to my email list. I tell them about the content because there's a huge chance that they don't see it because they're busy, because we're humans. So it's a reminder. It's my weekly newsletter. It's not extra juicy. It's not different than my social media. It's just making sure that they know that there's a piece of content out there that I think they would really find interesting. And it really is just copying and pasting, yes, a bit of my blog into this email, telling them, hey, go watch it on YouTube. Here's the link. Watch it or listen to the podcast or read the blog, whatever suits you. That email is happening from that core content. Then we also have social media posts that happen because I have a blog. I take that blog, I splice it up, I create carousels from it, I create tweets from it. Tweets, they're not real tweets. They're the quote things. Some people copy and paste from Twitter, whatever, but this is all coming from one piece of content. Not every single place that I'm posting though is exactly the same. It's all a different variation and it's all a different purpose based on what my ideal customer might be wanting to consume on that platform. And I'm super clear that if someone were on Pinterest, they are discovering me for the first time, heading over to my blog, getting on my website. If someone's on YouTube, they might see my YouTube short, which is a clip from a YouTube video, and then go watch the full video and then head over to my website. If someone's on my email and they see, oh, Michelle's got a podcast that I totally didn't even know existed. Good thing she told me about it. Now I'm going to subscribe and listen every single week. This is why repurposing is important, because our consumers, our friends, our colleagues, our clients, our ideal customers, they are busy. We are busy, and we need to make sure that we are reaching them at these different points. Where people are getting frustrated again is that everything feels exactly the same. So it's really important that, again, and I'm going to drive this home as many times as I possibly can, you understand the purpose of that content. Not everything needs to be shared everywhere. I don't share everything that I put in my emails on Instagram or on my blog. I don't share every single thing that's said in this podcast into social media content. I might pull out some really important little snippets and then encourage people to go further by looking at the full piece of content. That right there is really the sweet spot. We've seen a huge shift over on YouTube now that I have been consistent with my YouTube shorts, which again are mostly just clips from videos over on YouTube, because people are watching them and going, wow, this is really valuable. My YouTube channel is right there. They can click over and they can watch a full video to dive even deeper. It's increased my watch time and it has increased my subscribers very, very consistently, which I'm loving as a content creator. In order to do this better, you really need to understand what your content stack is, create your core content map as I've described to you, and then turn that into a clear workflow. The reason this is so important, and I've talked about this for probably 8 years now, I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to go out on this. You need to have a simple checklist for you every single week where you can say, did it, yes, 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 yes. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you have this. I keep mine in ClickUp. Again, last week's episode talked about some of my favorite tools, so go back and listen or watch that, because that's going to break down how I use these different tools in my content creation. But they're all because I want to show up and I want to repurpose my content, because I understand the importance of extending the life of my content. And I want to make sure that I'm not overthinking or feeling overwhelmed when creating my content. It really is as simple as like, did you do it? Yeah. Okay, great. It's on this checklist. Check it off. Let's move on. So that, in my opinion, is how you do it better. Because once you understand the purpose of the different platforms, you're able to then understand how you should be adjusting that content. Now, again, I don't want you to show up in all these places in the beginning. I always recommend, and I'll say it again in case this is your first time here, and if so, welcome, that your core content is a long form piece of content. Yes, you could start with social media and extend it, but it's a lot easier if you start with some sort of long form piece of content. This is typically going to be audio, video, or written content. So think blog, podcast, right? Or video content. Now, this could be a live video. I did that for years. I went live. It could be a pre-recorded video. It's completely up to you. Doing long form content at the core is going to make your life a lot easier, because it's easier to take that long form content and splice it up into smaller content. Again, this is where a lot of people are doing the copy and paste because they're not following this really easy strategy to take some sort of long form piece of content and then break it up into smaller pieces. I have clients who are like, okay, well, their primary place of marketing is their blog and social media. And they do, in the beginning, feel a little weird about writing a post on a Monday that says, hey, I wrote a new blog post. Here's the topic. Go ahead and check it out. And then maybe on Wednesday, they share a little piece from that blog post. But I'm telling you, like, this is what we need to do, because sometimes people will see that you have a blog post and they might be interested, but they're also really busy and they don't have the time right now. And if they don't click through at that moment in time, they might very well forget, and then you've lost them. And that piece of content just lives there on your blog, waiting for Google, waiting for SEO to kick in and start driving traffic, which it absolutely can. But what if you were able to just make sure that your audience knew in real time some of the juicy information you shared in that blog, even if they're not quite ready to go read the full thing? That is why it's so important to break it up. So again, that blog post could very easily say, hey, I created a new blog post, go read it. Then a couple days later, you could create a carousel that breaks down some of the main talking points within the blog. You don't even have to say it's from the blog. You just say it's native content. Then maybe you have a really good statistic from the blog that you want to share and elaborate on a little bit more. Let that be a piece of content. So it's really about understanding the purpose, and for you to know that we have to meet our customers where they are. So the next part of that question was, how do I do it more often? And for me, the more often piece comes down to two key elements: the tools you use and your schedule. So the tools that you use are really important. And I said a couple weeks ago that if you are not repurposing your content now, you're missing out on sales, you're missing out on traffic. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't repurpose your content in 2024 and beyond. We have so many amazing tools. I did not have these tools in the beginning. I did not have a tool that I could put a link in and it would give me a bunch of short form videos. I had to go and watch the whole video and pull out content. I did not have the amazing AI transcript that we have now. It wasn't horrible, but we would transcribe podcasts and we would spend another hour trying to cut out all the filler words. We don't have to do any of that anymore. And so tools, and investing in these marketing tools, which again, could be less than $30 a month, is going to help you reach more individuals. So again, check out last week's podcast episode 112, where I talked about some of those tools. And then your schedule. Your schedule is so important. When you create your content, it needs to be crystal clear. This is kind of ironic for me to talk about right now because I had to postpone recording of my podcast this week because everybody be mowing their lawns and doing yard work outside, and I like my couch area. In fact, if you've heard a in the background, I apologize, but I needed to get this bad boy recorded. So normally, when all of the stars aligned, I record my content on Monday. And so on Monday, I record my content. We got trash trucks too, yo. We record my content on Monday, and then I schedule all of my Pinterest content, my YouTube content, plan out my Instagram on Monday as well. Then on Tuesday, I'm creating the show notes, and on Wednesday, we're uploading the video. I'm super clear on that workflow. I've got it in my calendar. I repeat it week after week after week. You need to create your schedule. You need to have very designated times and I would say designated days of the week, because I'm not a big time person, because I homeschool my son, I work my business, and sometimes I just don't want to do things in the middle of the day. I might do them at night. So I'm not going to say you have to do it from this time to this time, but have very specific days where those are your content days and you know what you're doing. This is the huge difference. When I work with my clients, specifically my clients one-on-one who come to me, who are already marketing, they're already doing the things, but they're wanting to get off of social media, they're wanting to extend the life of their content, repurpose, but they don't feel like they have enough time, we always find the time. And it really is just about restructuring, getting these tools in place, making sure their workflow is in place, really understanding their content stack and the purpose there, and then picking a day to get it done. I have clients who come to me just so nervous about getting started on YouTube because they're like, I don't know when I'm going to have the time, to being 5 full weeks in advance, scheduled to premiere 5 weeks in advance. It's pretty amazing. And it seems so simple, but that's all it really takes is a little bit of discipline, a little bit of structure, and some awesome tools that make our lives a hell of a lot easier. And I'm here for it. So that is, in my opinion, what repurposing really is and why we need to focus on repurposing and why I really encourage you to start looking at repurposing in this way. It opens up the doors to so much more growth as an entrepreneur. And when you can start using these SEO platforms outside of just social media, it opens up the doors to so much growth as an entrepreneur. Something that I love about repurposing, and I'm going to end with this note, but I will create reels for Instagram. I'll be like, this is so good. Oh my gosh, this is going to be great. I love it. And my views are not what I would love them to be. Okay, whatever. I get it. So I could stop there. I could say, oh, I already posted it here, blah, blah, blah. It didn't do well. But then I'm subject to that platform, not being the leader of my content that I know that I am. So I'll take that video and I'll put it over on YouTube. And we could get 800, 1,000 views over on YouTube when I only got 250 or 300 over on Instagram. And these are individuals who have never seen me before. And now I've just increased my view count by a simple copy and paste I'll also post that on Pinterest and maybe we'll get another 1,000 views. So suddenly this one piece of content that I created that if I would have just let die over on a platform whose algorithm is a freaking mystery, I would have lost out on so much potential. And that's what I really want you to take home. It's your content. You've spent a lot of time creating it. You know that it's good. You've put your freaking juju into this content. You know that it's good. Let's get it seen. And that's why repurposing is so, so important. So I hope that today's episode really helped you look at repurposing in a different way, to figure out again what your content stack is. For me, that's really the deciding factor. What are the platforms? What are their purpose? And then being crystal clear on how you're going to adjust your content to match those different platforms. It's so, so important. If you have further questions on repurposing, I invite you to come over to Instagram. You can join my VIP channel and you can learn more over there. If you want to learn more about these SEO platforms, you can go to brandmerry.com/academy and learn a little bit more about how I support my clients in Academy. Yep, secret, hush, hush. Doors are going to be opening soon. And we just went ahead and make the page live because life needs to be easier for all of us. And if you are ready to join, learn more about the Academy, learn how you can use these different marketing platforms, learn how you can repurpose with ease, and actually have 2 times a month where you can talk directly to me on our group calls, then go ahead to brandmerry.com/academy and check it out. All right, I'll be back with another episode next week. Until then, happy repurposing.